So in this video we're going to watch a roof being replaced. The house behind me has currently got a metal roof on it, so we're taking off the metal roof and putting on a new COLORBOND steel roof. We could have quite easily gone with a Zincalume roof if the customer had preferred the silver traditional look, but in this situation they wanted a colour, so we've gone with COLORBOND steel. Now we replace all types of roofs, so if this had had a tiled roof on it, or Decramastic, or even an asbestos roof, we could take that off and put on a new COLORBOND or Zincalume roof. Now the first stage of the process is for the safety rails to go up. The rules in Queensland are that anything above 3 metres must have a fall arrest system. So in this situation, we've installed safety rails. Let's go back to the start of the day and watch how they were installed. So we'd already installed the uprights earlier. Now you can see Josh just putting in the cross rails. So it's a three-part system. You've got the uprights that go from the ground right up to above the roof line. You've got the brackets that go onto the fascia, and then you've got the cross rails. Now for the first stage of the actual job itself. First step is we've got to take all of the old screws out. Now this roof's a combination of screws and lead head nails, so we're doing the screws first, and then shortly we'll show you how we get the old lead head nails out. Now we're taking out the old lead head nails. Obviously this roof's coming off, so we don't have to be overly gentle. If the roof wasn't coming off, we certainly wouldn't hack at it like this, but all we're aiming to do here is just to get them out as best we can. Okay, so we've got all the old nails and screws out of the roof. Now we're going to start stripping the roof sheets. Now importantly, today's a fine day, so we don't have to worry too much, but even still we're cautious not to strip too much of the roof. So if any bad weather was to come, we want to make sure we can lay that section as quickly as possible before the bad weather hits. So we're just going to do a section at a time. Let's have a look at how that's done. Okay, so now we've removed that section of roof, we're going to start laying the new roof on that section. First though, we'll do two things. We're going to install 75mm batten screws, or some people call them cyclone screws, for extra security. And on this roof, we're also going to put on 55mm Anticon blanket insulation. Now that's an optional extra, not everybody gets the insulation, but this customer has opted for that. So the perfect time to do it is when the roof's off. So here Jacob's putting in the batten screws, or cyclone screws as I called them earlier. They're a 75mm bugle head screw, and this adds extra security to the roof structure. Okay, so now the guys are putting down the Anticon blanket insulation. The reason it's called Anticon, it's short for anti-condensation, which is one of the functions it performs. So it stops condensation dripping from the underside of the sheets onto the ceiling. The other thing that it does is it's an insulator. So 55mm blanket, it's essentially like ceiling bats, except that it rolls out on top of the battens instead of onto the ceiling. Okay, so the next step in the process is to start laying the actual roof itself, and that starts with the roof sheets. Let's have a look at how they're laid. So what Jacob's doing now is just measuring out the sheet, so we need to cut it to get the angle right for the angle of the hip. Then he'll mark it with a chalk line and then cut along that line. And a nice neat cut using a tool called Excaliburs. And now he's passing the sheet up to Mick, who's already up on the roof, tacking the sheets off that are already up there. So Mick's already up here on the roof, tacking off the sheets that Jacob's passing up to him. He'll fully screw off the bottom row, but then just tack off the other rows. The roof gets fully screwed off at the end. What Mick's doing here is just measuring for the next sheet. We saw on the ground that Jacob was cutting the angles for the hips. So Mick will yell out the measurements to him. He marks them on the sheets on the ground, cuts them, and then passes them up. So what Mick's demonstrating there is he's actually turning the ends of the sheets up. That stops water from blowing up under the ridge capping, or in this case the hip capping, and inside the roof. So now we've moved over to the other side of the roof and we're batten screwing out this side. Again, this is to add extra security for wind loading purposes. So now what Mick's doing is the scribing, which is basically cutting out the shape or the contours of the corrugation. This is to stop water from blowing up under the ridge capping. Well, this is actually called the hip capping, the ones that run into the corners of the hips. The ones that run across the top are called the ridges. This was installed a little bit earlier. So he'll go around the entire roof and scribe all of the hips, all of the ridges, but one at a time. Again, the tool he's using, like cutting the sheets earlier, they're called Excaliburs. Some people do it freehand with tin snips. Mick's decided to use the Excaliburs. So what Mick's doing here is screwing off this side of the roof. We could wait till the end of the job and just screw the whole roof off in one go, or you can do it a section at a time, which is the way he's doing it right now. Okay, so I'm just going to show you another couple of components that exist on many roofs. Firstly, when you've got what's called a split pitch, so when it goes from a steep section to a flat section, we need to put in what's called a flashing. Now, I'll just lift up this insulation and give you a better look at it. Okay, so eventually the sheets will be laid on top of that, and I'll show you a shot of that once the sheets are laid. Now, if I just pan up here as well, this is called a valley. So when you get a roof that's a T shape or an L shape, anything other than a straight rectangle, you'll have one or more valleys. Again, I'll show you a shot of this once the sheets are laid on top of it, but that gives you an idea of it in its raw form. And this is what the valley looks like when the sheets are laid over the top of it. It's not screwed off yet, but I'll show you again once the whole roof's been screwed off. You'll see how that's actually, you'll get a nice neat screw line up either side of the valley. And finally, here's the finished product. Notice the beautiful neat scribing on the hips and the ridges, the neat screw lines, beautiful neat cuts in the valley, and a gorgeous looking brand new roof. So if you like what you've seen in this video and you'd like to have a quote on having your roof replaced, give us a call on 3276 0464 and one of our friendly estimators will pop out, measure up your roof and give you a free quote with absolutely no obligation whatsoever. So give us a call now on 3276 0464. Thank you for watching.